We can start our next session for today. I hope everyone is back from their breaks. It was a small break, but I hope it was sufficient. Our next session for today is titled Intensified Dialogue in MSP in the Baltic Sea and beyond. We have 3 speakers for this session, and this will be followed by a little panel discussion. Without further ado, I would like to invite our first speaker for this session, Elin Celik, from Swedish Agency for Marine and Water Management, better known as SwAM. Elin, you will tell us about the Planners Forum that has been indeed one of the important tools for intensifying the dialogue in the latest period. Thank you, Elin. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ivana, for the introduction, and hello, everyone. So I will just make sure that you see my screen, and you are, right? Yep. Okay, thank you. Perfect. Okay, so I will start to talk about the Planners Forum, and within the Capacity4MSP project, we had 5 planning forums, or actually we had 4 of them so far, and we will have the 5th one this Friday. So the forums are meetings where MSP practitioners discuss and exchange views and experience about MSP. And this is, I mean, it's about the MSP processes in the national context, how they relate to each other, as well as planning issues. And I mean, both the cross-border ones and the issues that we have in common, and which are the most issues. And we also discussed other project activities and outputs during these forums. We have also exchanged experience with other sea basins and with the global and European MSP network. And this is actually a continuation of the planning forum practice that already started in previous MSP projects, for example, the Pan-Baltic Scope. And we had all our forums online, as you know, for this time. The second thing we did was to suggest a lasting mechanism for the planning forums. So the idea is to have Planners Forum acting on a regular base, not being that dependent on specific MSP projects. And don't get confused about here using Planners Forum or Planning Forum, because previously we always used Planning Forum, and we decided to do that in this project as well. But for future use, actually we favor Planners Forum. And we do this because we see that there is a need for coherent planning across border to reach our objectives and to ensure the optimal use of the Baltic Sea. And we already have official collaboration, and here it's good to name the VASAB MSP working group. But we have seen a need for a more informal and practical knowledge exchange and discussion and cooperation among the actual planners or experts engaged in producing these plans. So this is functioning as a complement to the more official collaboration then. And this is just a list of the participants in the planning forum, which is then a bit broader than the project participants. And there has also been invited external guests as an addition to these ones. And these are some pictures of how it looks when we work, and I just like put the headings of the themes that we have been covered and discussions we had during these forums. And it is all summarized in a kind of activity output, and it will be published on the Capacity4MSP website shortly. Yeah. And then another like output is the actual terms of reference for planners forum. So here we have worked together and agreed on how this forum could then work at the regular base. So in the terms of reference, it is stated what are the objectives and how often do we meet, how do we meet, who is represented in these forums, and so on and so on. And it is also then suggested that this will be a subgroup under the HELCOM VASAB MSP working group. And this is a suggestion for terms of reference. And what's happening next is that we suggest, and also the HELCOM VASAB MSP group take this, like continues this work to actually establish this group. And it's also in the Baltic Sea Action Plan already. Okay, so we see that just a regular participation in these forums that could be covered from national funding, but there is a need for additional funding for the chair and also for technical support. So that is an issue too that has to be taken into account in the further work. Okay, thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Elin. It is very good to see that the planning forum is something that can actually live even after the lifetime of the Capacity for MSP project. Very good. Let's see, as part of the Capacity for MSP project, we also had several really hands-on workshops focusing on different sectors and different issues, so cross sectors. I would like to invite our next speaker for today, that is Magda Matczak from Marine Institute of Maritime University of Gdańsk. Magda, hello, I see you and I see your presentation, I hear you well. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ivana. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to use my time to introduce you to the activity of the project, which was focused on thematic cross-sectoral workshops. How is it working? Okay. The aim, of course, there is also always an aim. The aim of this activity was to bring forward and discuss the further topics arising from the work packages, which were already presented by Jacek and Angela earlier today. So those seminars or workshops were not meant just only to discuss the topics that we are interested in, but also to discuss the issues that arise from the policy or synthesis report or work within the monitoring and implementation. The first challenge which we had was the finding of the topics and concepts of those workshops. So we have been discussing from the very beginning, from the autumn of 2019, what topic are interesting and what topic should be further discussed in a Baltic Sea region. So you can see here, this is a table from the early 2020 when we discussed really in depth the MSP concepts and topics, and we tried to assess them, whether they still need to be discussed. Are there any emerging challenges in those concepts or not? So you can see here, for example, we thought that the shipping topic, it's like a sufficiently known, so we don't need to focus on it. But for example, we should support further the multi-use, or we should share the practices and knowledge gathered in the energy sector, or we should talk more about the maritime cultural heritage, because we have only scarce practices. So that was the first challenge, to find the proper topic of the workshops. Then another challenge with which Inga already mentions at the beginning, we almost together with the project we fight it with COVID. The result was that our workshops have been delayed. because we were like waiting for almost a year. Maybe the pandemic will stop and we can have the real workshop, but it didn't turn out. So we had our first workshop in September 2020. And altogether, we have organized 8 workshops dedicated to different topics. You can see that the BASEMAPS have been discussed, the offshore wind energy and maritime special planning combined with offshore wind energy. We also had a workshop. It wasn't a one workshop, but it was a series of workshops dedicated to the development of the Russian MSP roadmap. We discussed about the land-sea interactions and about the blue bioeconomy. We also discussed with stakeholders, with the Baltic stakeholders or European stakeholders, the early results of the policy brief report, which was earlier showed by Jacek. So we tried to have people involved in operationalization, of those results, and how can we use them to make them work in the future. We also had a workshop dedicated to vision and strategies. So how we can use the vision in our MSP work, and how can we work with this further, and a cumulative impact assessment of maritime activities. So I will shortly show you now this is one more slide about the participation. I have counted the involvement, and it turned out that we have over 200 participants over those 8 workshops. So you can see here the numbers. The last workshop dedicated to cumulative impact assessment, you will see the only 5%, but that was the only workshop which was held face-to-face. So that was a real meeting. That's why the participation was a little bit limited. Okay, so very shortly about the results. You can find all the workshop results on the VASAB website. So the BASEMAP data portal, we had 2 workshops, and it was described earlier by Elin, and those workshops were very much targeted to specific people who are working with the data and who are responsible for data management in maritime administration, or in administration working with maritime special planning. And the goal of those workshops were very specific. They were testing, they were improving the BASEMAP, the whole mechanism, the portal, and so on. So you can find as a workshop results on the YouTube, the movie, what is the goal of the BASEMAP, and also you can find the instructions for users and instructions for the administration panel. So it was all developed within those workshops. We have very important, very interesting workshop on maritime special planning and offshore wind energy. And the aim here was to discuss and to exchange the insights of an experience. And we had like a 4 topic. That was a very intense workshop. So we have been talking about the addressing national renewable energy targets. We know that they are constantly changing because of the changes in European targets as well. We have been talking about the criteria, about the co-location, multi-use, and the offshore wind environmental impact. So as you can see from the workshop attendance list, we had authorities. Most of the participants came from authorities, and a very huge group from the industry. So that was a very good representative to discuss between the administration and the industry, and that was a very good composition of participants in our opinion. We had a very interesting workshop about the land-sea interactions, and there were 3 main topics talking about how offshore wind parks and the coastal communities, what are the interactions, are they positive or negative? What are the main problems and topics to discuss? We also discussed the coastal tourism and the coastal environment, and that was really very interesting because we talked specifically about the concrete projects, scientific or research projects, which gave real solution, could be then incorporated also in the maritime special plans. And we talk about maritime marine cultural heritage and how how does it influence the coastal zones and the maritime special planning? So also that was also very huge workshop. So there's a lot of results, but also one of the results was the discussion which land-sea interactions related topic need more attention in the future. So you can see that the topic is not finished. So we can discuss for next year's what is the governance across the levels, what are the problems for fisheries, aquaculture, again, multi-use, tourism, public discussion. So there's a lot to discuss in the future. Vision and strategies. That was also very interesting workshop. I like it very much because that was also we organized as Maritime Institute this workshop, and the aim was like two ways. One was to present the VASAB work towards the new long-term perspective. So how the VASAB vision will be changed or will be modified, or how it evolve. And also we have discussed how do we use the visions in the maritime special planning processes? So how the countries, did they use the visions? Do they make the visioning exercise when they were planning? And we have also discussed, do we need the vision, is useful or not? Okay, and the last project was on a cumulative impact assessment. As I told you, that was a very nice workshop because it was held face-to-face in Copenhagen in December 2021. And that was a workshop dedicated also to the tool, to the GIS tool or the modeling tool, how we can assess the cumulative impacts of planning decisions on the environment. And this is like a new tool called Smetelius Toolbox, and it's developed now by the University of Aalborg, and it will be further developed, and more workshops will be arranged. So this is some kind of tool for the future also. So we have more and more of those tools developed, also thanks to the Capacity project. Okay, so thank you very much for your attention to this short presentation, and you can find all the results of the meetings on the VASAB website of the Capacity4MSP website. There are all the reports and more informations needed. Thank you very much, Ivana. Thank you all.
Thank you, Magda. Albeit online, all these workshops. Yeah, stay with us, please. So albeit online, all these workshops, I think, managed to really advance the dialogue, and many of them were really kind of hands-on, even online. So I think the good job has been done there. However, I think we all lack a bit of, at least I'm craving a bit of in-person interaction with everyone. Yeah. So we look forward to the better times coming, hopefully. Okay, I would like to introduce our next speaker for today, Kristina Veidemane from the Baltic Environmental Forum. She will tell us a bit more about the stakeholders' involvement and engagement. Kristina, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Ivana. Good morning, everyone from Riga. So it's really great pleasure to be in your final event of Capacity4MSP project. This has been, I would say, a long journey for you, but it's not the final meeting and final event in which we are meeting to discuss these challenging topics related to maritime spatial planning. And I'm also very glad to see that the interest to the topic is not getting less. So also today we are having more than 30 participants who are interested to learn what has been achieved during the Capacity4MSP project. So as Ivana said, I would talk about stakeholder and engagement. That is an analysis which was performed with an aim really to look what has been done before. So to collect and review lessons learned from previous MSP projects or studies, as well as national MSP processes from perspective of involvement stakeholders, awareness raising activities. So in that way to increase better planning activities in the Baltic Sea region. This target group for this analysis was MSP practitioners, policy makers, decision makers at different level, really that it could help them and reading this report also to what could be improved and what could be done better in the next step. So similar like already to the previous speakers, so this analysis was conducted last year. So I completed the task in August 2021. So of course there could be update might be with some new perspectives to integrate some challenges that which have been experienced might be in some member states in communicating and getting to adoption of maritime spatial plans, but yeah, the task was for that time. And it's also like similar to Angela already pointed out that so far the countries and experts have been focusing on developing or preparing maritime spatial plans, and in relation to that involvement of stakeholders in this process. However, implementation and monitoring and evaluation, it has still ahead, and so the clear vision how to involve stakeholders are not yet established in all countries. As I have very few minutes given to present these findings, I rather decided to focus on kind of recommendations which come up from this whole work. So this was also engaging interviews, data collection, surveys, interactive discussions in some workshops, and at the end, there are, of course, some findings, but also recommendations. And the recommendations can be structured in kind of three ways, in three strands or three clusters. One are related to stakeholder involvement process. Another aspect is related to communication and dialogue. So actually, this part of the final event also is dedicated to increase dialogues. And one more block is related to dissemination of the results, which is also very important, really, to get commitments from stakeholders to continue engagement in the implementation process or monitoring process. So when we talk about stakeholder involvement, and we also look what kind of roles are for authorities which are planning processes, but also which are sectoral authorities which have to take part in this whole process. And this can be in different ways. So we can inform our stakeholders, or we, of course, consult or receive comments and opinions. But there can be also much more active engagement in creating some scenarios, solutions. So it really depends from capacities of the countries. So when we talk about stakeholder engagement, that there was a clear message that as early we involve stakeholders, it can bring various benefits, multiple benefits for maritime spatial plan. It's kind of really basics for public participation process, but it also through maritime spatial planning, which was for many countries first time, it has been really pointed out. And early involvement also helps to bring trust among stakeholders, but it also takes time and efforts to build this trust. And that's what needs to be taken into account in next steps. So Jacek in his presentation already outlined some tools and models, and also in communicating and engaging of stakeholders, these tools and models is seen as very supportive approach. So it's very important to continue this development of tools and always take into mind what kind of a message we can generate from these tools also for different stakeholders. Another aspect is that while maritime spatial planning for many countries, it was taken at national scale, now when implementation starts, this engagement of local and regional stakeholders should be strengthened. It seems that not everyone has kind of find its place or its role in the implementation process. So there needs to be some incentives to mobilize this engagement also of local and regional stakeholders. And last not least, HELCOM VASAB MSP working group, it is very active and look at different aspects, how to ensure coherent maritime spatial planning across the borders. But it's also important still to look strategically how to increase stakeholder involvement in maritime spatial planning processes. With regard to communication, the key word is that strategic and systematic communication should be ensured. And it hasn't happened always during the preparation of the plans, and countries have chosen different approaches, either to do with internal resources or outsourcing, applying different communication channels and tools. Yeah, not always a systematic approach has been really implemented, and that's what is recommended in future. And that all the steps and communications which are taken, it's very important to ensure transparency and openness for stakeholders, because otherwise they create rumors or suspicious, and we are again losing trust in stakeholders. It is also important to see the progress or achievements in communication, and that's one of the tools are measurable indicators, and that also this could be applied not only to measure impact on environment or on economy or social aspects, but also success in communication could be measured. And that could be introduced as one of the tools in future implementation of maritime spatial plans. So dialogue and experience exchange. So mainly this has happened through many projects which have been implemented in Baltic Sea region, and of course it's recommendable also to continue in future, because really this can support our understanding across the borders. What do we really mean behind these plans and how the implementation is going on? And last not least is related to dissemination activities, that this is also very important, and for that we need resources, and that we should disseminate activities and information about activities during preparation plan, but also when the plan is adopted. So to keep stakeholders informed also about licensing processes or about other development processes, that the information is continuously presented. And and that information is also, how to say, delivered to the local level, that it's not only staying among national authorities, and a wide range of actors are being engaged in implementation process. So I was asked also to maybe comment how this output, the report, can be useful for the region or for the countries. So there is quite some nice link to the HELCOM VASAB Regional Maritime Spatial Planning Roadmap for 2030. And one of the tasks which has been identified in this is further develop institutional framework for the intergovernmental collaboration in MSP in the Baltic Sea region. And it points out that there would be revision of the guidelines of transboundary consultation and public participation and cooperation by 2026. So I hope that this study and analysis can also give some input, what could be revised or enhance these guidelines, and so to make better cooperation and communication also in future. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Kristina. Please stay on the floor. I would also like to invite the previous two speakers, so both Elin and Magda, to join us. I would also like to invite Alda Nikodemusa from the VASAB Secretariat to also join us for the panel. Let's see if we have everyone. Alda, I have actually a first question for you. Thanks for joining the panel, first of all. We have now heard from all the speakers regarding all these different efforts that have taken place as part of the Capacity for MSP project to advance the dialogue on MSP. And we have heard a couple of times the referral to the HELCOM VASAB MSP working group, as well as the Planners Forum. So from your perspective, what will be the role of VASAB, and especially maybe this MSP working group in the coming periods to kind of ensure the continuation of the dialogue?
Thank you, Ivana, and good morning everyone participating in this final event of very interesting and exciting Capacity for MSP project platform. Before answering to Ivana's question, I would like to thank all the project partners for very intensive work and so many things done, and all these workshops, all these prepared reports and everything. So thank you so much. And it's really, these times were very challenging, and we appreciate from VASAB Secretariat side and from VASAB side that this project is indeed success. Thank you. But regarding Ivana's question about how to ensure this continuity of MSP in our Baltic Sea region, so yes, it's indeed that this role of HELCOM VASAB MSP working group should be kept, and as VASAB is responsible in EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region. VASAB is responsible key coordinator of policy area spatial planning. We do it regarding land-based planning, but together with HELCOM regarding maritime spatial planning. And indeed, this task should be continued. And we are so happy that mandate for HELCOM VASAB MSP working group is prolonged until 2030, and that this cooperation still continues. And also this experience gained within meetings and different activities of this working group, I suppose they helped a lot countries to develop their maritime spatial plans. And in the future, as we have now also approved a new regional MSP roadmap, which now turns more on monitoring and implementation of maritime spatial plans. And I suppose that this cooperation will indeed also give contribution to countries to share this knowledge and between all countries and continue this cooperation. And what was also today already mentioned about this planning or planners forum, indeed this is very practical tool how practitioners can meet and discuss different challenges and issues, how they develop maritime spatial plans, and how to overcome difficulties on that. So, and yeah, so this planners forum, it was possible to perform because we had projects at the beginning, this Pan-Baltic Scope project, now this Capacity for MSP project, and from VASAB side, we are looking forward to apply for other possibilities to ensure that this planners forum is still on the stage, and that it has been recognized by participants as very useful platform for meeting and discussing really these different problems. Yeah, I suppose. Indeed. Yeah, I suppose I answered. Yeah.
Indeed, you have. Thank you. I see thumbs up from Magda, and I think the Capacity for MSP project actually helped us also identify some of the key topics that could be taken up by this future by future discussions and by future collaborations. So what topics actually need a further dialogue? I would like, before proceeding with next questions and discussion, I would like also to engage our attendees here. Please go to Slido. We have prepared one question poll for you. So the question is, what is, according to you, what is the key topic that needs intensified dialogue between planners in the Baltic? So what are still the key topics that need this intensified dialogue in the Baltic Sea? So while everyone responds, we will see results a bit later on. I would like to ask Magda, so you have presented now regarding these workshops that have taken place as part of the project. So from your perspective, what are kind of still the key gaps and topics that could be taken further in future, let's say, workshops or projects and so on?
Okay, Ivana. So I think this is a topic for a separate planner session. I think I would respond in two ways. I know that I don't have time, but I will try. So looking at the new topics, I think that we. For me, the climate change. Maybe it's not a new topic, but how to. How are the consequences and how the MSP can deal with the climate change? I think it's a still, at least for me as a Maritime Special Planner, a kind of huge question mark. So this is like still engaging here, and this is also another topic, maybe not a gap, but I would like to see for the next years a workshop showing like a new knowledge generated, new tools which are showing, like, for example, socioeconomic consequences of some maritime special planning solutions. So I think that we need to discuss now about the change which I think has happened in on a scientific side. So we have like asked for long years, scientists, you have to think specially, you have to generate a new knowledge which is useful for MSP, and they have listened, and now there's a lot of new knowledge and new tools. So I think they have to be deepened, and it have to be somehow more discussed. And I think that we also should talk about the social sustainability. So how to, maybe it's not a, it's more about the process. So how to include, how not to exclude people. And I would like very much to also to see a topic of a young planners, of a new generation of planners. So I would like to VASAB to continue the young planners forum, so this activity, so to bring a new people to this MSP world, to bring their ideas. I think it's very important. So all the tools, and the last thing, Ivana, I would like to say, it's also not about the new things, but we should keep attendum to the old traditional topics. So we think we know everything about the shipping, about the offshore wind energy and so on, but this is all the changing topics. We have the different, the policy are changing. I mean, this is everything so dynamic. So I also thought like yesterday that how the war on Ukraine, how it will change the policies and how it will influence the future MSP planning. So this is also something we will have to face soon, whether, you know, the policies will change their priorities. So I think there's a lot of gaps, maybe not a lot of, but a lot of topics to discuss, and we have to keep a discussion. That's all.
Indeed. Thanks very much. And I see that actually we have, as part of this question in Slido, we have offered a couple of different topics, but the two that you have now mentioned, so the climate change as well as this social sustainability or social justice, are actually something that it's not included in there. So that's very important then to add. And indeed, the priorities are really changing, and we see, so for example, yesterday, the new communication from the European Commission came out regarding the renewable energy. So we see that this secure energy security is quite high right now. So it's called Repower EU, and it's really kind of emphasizing the importance also of permitting. This needs to be not so complicated, importance of planning, and so on. And in May, we will see new guidelines from the Commission regarding permitting, or how we can improve permitting for the offshore wind and other types of the renewable energies. Okay, I'm not sure if we can see results already. We have 12 answers coming up, but the results are not coming through. I think our technical team in background is working on that. In the meantime, I would like to, Elin, ask you with regards to the planners forum. I see now that one of the topics coming up and at the planners forum in a few days is actually focusing on the renewable energy, on the offshore wind itself. So in terms of future collaboration and dialogue between planners, I think we have kind of a good way forward and a positive outlook to that. But given that this climate change and renewable energies are really high up right now as in terms of the priorities, can we also see the intensified collaboration and dialogue also with the industry and kind of looking for the opportunities to somehow join forces there and move things forward? How do you see this?
Well, I think that is absolutely fundamental. I mean, you cannot do I'm planning in a closed room just with other planners or just like considering the plans. You have to, I mean, you have to consult all kinds of stakeholders, and for the offshore energy sector, I mean, it's very important as the sector is in a very, I mean, rapidly developing phase. So here we have, I mean, everything to win by collaborating and, I mean, increase the dialogue. And this is also what Kristina highlighted, or the work she has been doing is highlighting. So I mean, that's very important. The planners forum is it's not the main focus of the planners forum to have this broader dialogue. However, we have discussed and in the terms of reference work for the future planners forum, we have also discussed that the planners forum should be organized as suitable for addressing specific topics. I mean, it is possible to have like broader forums to invite different kinds of participants and stakeholders and have that kinds of forums as well. However, the planners forum in the form as it has been, and we also suggest to continue, is a bit more focused on the planning issues. So this also has to be made in cooperation with other initiatives, of course, but very important.
That's a very good point. Thank you very much. And we see actually that as part of the results, renewable energy and multi-use so far are coming up high in terms of the responses. Kristina, from your side, maybe related to this, we definitely need now, in terms of the priorities, more exchange with renewable energy industry and so on. How do you see this exchange operationalizing now from your experience in terms of stakeholder engagement? What has worked so far, what not? What sort of fora, kind of a more continuous and maybe informal fora, also joining forces with renewable energy industry? What would be suitable, and how would you see this operationalizing in the Baltic Sea?
So one is the renewable energy sector, but there is a need, of course, discussion in so-called thematic groups, but it's very important to have a cross-sectoral workshops, which actually was a tool here in Capacity4MSP project. Because if we will be discussing in separately just offshore energy or just nature conservation, like MPA network is pointed out, or there's an aquaculture sector, we will create only kind of opposition from other sectors. So it's very important to really ensure this multidisciplinary approach, to have a wide forums and opportunities to discuss that it's not only, okay, now we need energy, and that's also why only energy sector will have a main driving force, how Baltic Sea will look like. It shouldn't happen, I think. There's also, we hear food is not sufficiently now, and it will become a key challenge in coming years to ensure sufficient food. So there's also room how the aquaculture can be developing. So I'm strongly supporting open dialogues and cross-sectoral dialogues, which has been here also emphasized in the project. Yes, if we need some technical discussions or how to say competencies from the sector, then there is this community of practices as a tool which is now used for in MSP, or can working group be established if more formal procedure needs to be applied, like we had this tool on data for data expert groups. So there are multiple tools really depending what we want to achieve. But yeah, I would be for more open cross-sectoral discussion, particularly when we are having now this kind of really sensitive and a lot of tensions in the air towards dialogues and communications.
Very good. Thanks very much. And I think you have actually influenced the results of our Slido poll, because multi-use, which is basically cross-sectoral dialogue, came now on top. Okay, excellent. We have one more Slido question, which is what methods have been the most effective for carrying out dialogue in the Baltic Sea region? However, I invite everyone to answer to that during the break. I think we can take a little break now. Thank you very much for this petite panel. I think we had very good answers. Thank you very much. And we will have a break. I'm not sure with the technical team if it's feasible to have it until 12:05, so that we indeed give people some 10 minutes break. So we meet again at 12:05 Riga time. Thank you very much again.